Have you ever been this close to something good? A relationship, an opportunity, a breakthrough, and somehow you destroyed it yourself? Not because you wanted to, not because you didn't care, but because something inside you pulled the brakes. You hesitated. You delayed. You found a reason to stop just before it worked. That's not bad luck. That's not laziness. That's self-sabotage. And today, we're unpacking why the human brain does this, even when it knows better. Self-sabotage is when your behavior works against your own goals, often without your awareness. It isn't dramatic most of the time. It's quiet, rational, convincing. It sounds like, I'll do it later. I'm not ready yet. This is risky. I don't want to ruin what I already have. From the outside, it looks like caution. From the inside, it feels like self-protection. Psychology shows that self-sabotage isn't about wanting to fail. It's about wanting to feel safe. To understand that, let's look at two very different lives. John lived a life that worked. That was how he described it. He had a stable job, predictable hours, and a routine so familiar it barely required thought. Every morning, the same commute. Every evening, the same meals. Every weekend, the same plans, or lack of them. Nothing was wrong, and that was exactly the problem. Years earlier, John had wanted more. He used to talk about learning new skills, starting something on the side, maybe even moving to a different city. But somewhere along the way, those thoughts became uncomfortable. They asked too much of him, so he stopped entertaining them. When a supervisor once suggested he apply for a higher position, John laughed it off. "I'm not management material," he said, smiling. The statement sounded humble, responsible, even wise, but inside it was relief. Advancement meant visibility. Visibility meant expectation. Expectation meant the risk of failure. John told himself he preferred peace. Over time, this pattern repeated everywhere in his life. He avoided situations that required commitment. He postponed decisions that would change his routine. He dismissed opportunities by focusing on their risks rather than their possibilities. Whenever he felt a spark of ambition, his mind responded quickly. What if it doesn't work? What if you disappoint people? What if you lose what little stability you have? And so John stayed exactly where he was. From the outside, it looked like contentment. From the inside, it felt like slow erosion. The strangest part was that John believed he was choosing safety. But in reality, he was choosing familiarity over growth. He wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid of becoming someone new and not knowing how to live as that person. John didn't sabotage his life with dramatic mistakes. He did it quietly, by refusing to move. Neuroscience explains this clearly. The brain prioritizes predictability over progress. Research by neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux shows the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, reacts not just to danger, but to uncertainty. For John, success wasn't neutral. It was uncertain, and uncertainty registers as threat. His nervous system associated growth with loss of control, social evaluation, identity disruption. So his brain chose the familiar, even if it was unfulfilling. This is why psychologists say the brain prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar safety. John wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid of becoming someone new and not knowing how to survive as that person. The second lie we will be talking about is Aneta. Aneta was used to winning. She thrived in high-pressure environments where precision mattered and mistakes were visible. Her career had been built on performance, discipline, and constant improvement. Every promotion reinforced the same belief. If I work harder, I'll be safe. But what success gave her professionally, it took from her emotionally. Aneta didn't trust ease. When things went well, she waited for the problem to arise. When things felt calm, she prepared for disruption. Rest felt irresponsible. Stillness felt dangerous. In meetings, she was decisive, confident, sharp. But in quiet moments, her mind raced. She replayed conversations, questioned decisions, and imagined consequences that hadn't happened. When she finally reached a leadership position she had chased for years, something unexpected happened. She felt empty. The achievement didn't bring relief. It brought exposure. Now, there was more to lose. Instead of slowing down, Aneta doubled down. She worked longer hours, took on more responsibility, controlled every detail she could reach. Mistakes, hers or others, felt personal. When colleagues offered help, she declined. Delegation felt like weakness. Trust felt like a risk. Her self-sabotage didn't look like failure. It looked like overachievement, but the cost showed up in other ways. Chronic exhaustion, emotional detachment, a constant sense that she was one mistake away from losing everything. Eventually, Aneta made decisions driven not by strategy, but by fear. She rejected innovative ideas because they felt uncertain. She avoided collaboration because it reduced her control. She pushed herself past her limits because slowing down felt like surrender. The burnout didn't arrive suddenly. It crept in, until one day, her body forced what her mind refused to consider. Aneta hadn't sabotaged her success. She sabotaged her ability to enjoy it. She believed control would protect her. Instead, it trapped her. Psychologist Brené Brown explains this pattern through shame-based identity. This is what happens when self-worth depends on performance. If you learn that you're only valuable when you achieve, your brain never relaxes after success. For Aneta, success didn't mean safety. It meant exposure. More eyes, more expectations, more to lose. The brain has two main systems at work here. The prefrontal cortex handles logic and planning. The survival system scans for danger. Under constant pressure, the survival system takes over. Research shows that long-term stress weakens the brain's ability to think calmly. Not because intelligence disappears, but because the brain is busy protecting itself. So even though Aneta knew she was capable, her body didn't feel safe enough to slow down. Her nervous system learned one rule: if I stop, I lose value. That belief doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like urgency. That's why rest felt wrong. Delegation felt dangerous, and control felt necessary. Her brain wasn't pushing her toward excellence. It was pushing her away from shame. This creates a hidden loop. Success increases visibility. Visibility increases pressure. Pressure triggers fear. Fear demands more effort. So Aneta worked harder, not because she wanted more, but because slowing down felt unsafe. This is why self-sabotage doesn't always stop success. Sometimes, it makes success unbearable. There are 5 root causes of self-sabotage we will be talking about. 1. Fear of identity change. Psychologist Carl Rogers believed that people resist change when it threatens how they see themselves. Growth doesn't just add new outcomes. It removes old identities. Success asks questions like, who am I if this works? How do people see me now? What is expected of me next? Even positive change can feel like loss. The brain doesn't like losing familiar versions of the self. So it resists, not because growth is bad, but because identity change feels unsafe. Self-sabotage slows that change down. 2. Fear of success. Success doesn't end pressure. It increases it. More visibility, higher expectations, less room for mistakes. The brain starts asking, can I keep this up? What happens if I fall from here? For some people, failure feels safer than sustained success. So, the brain creates an escape route. Self-sabotage becomes a way out, not from failure, but from the weight of staying successful. 3. Familiar pain conditioning. The brain prefers what it knows. If early life was filled with chaos, criticism, or instability, the nervous system learns to expect it. So, when life becomes calm, the brain doesn't relax. It becomes alert. Stability feels suspicious. Peace feels temporary. Self-sabotage restores the familiar environment, not because it's good, but because it's predictable. 4. Shame-based self-beliefs. At the core of many patterns is a quiet belief. Beliefs like, I don't deserve consistency. People like me don't win. If things go well, something bad will follow. These beliefs don't live in words. They live in behavior. When success challenges them, the brain feels a psychological tension. And to relieve that tension, behavior shifts back to the old identity. The brain always seeks internal consistency, even when consistency causes harm. 5. Emotional safety deficit. Discipline alone doesn't stop self-sabotage, because the brain won't move toward a future. It believes it will cost safety. If growth feels like it will mean less rest, less belonging, more pressure, more judgment, the nervous system resists. Progress only happens when the brain believes, I can grow and still be safe. Without emotional safety, self-sabotage is not rebellion. It's protection. John stayed still to feel safe. Aneta stayed busy to feel safe. Different paths. Same mechanism. Self-sabotage isn't your enemy. It's a message. It says, something about this future feels unsafe. You don't overcome it by forcing discipline. You overcome it by building safety with growth. Because once your nervous system believes success won't cost you your identity, your peace, or your belonging, it stops pulling the brakes, and progress finally becomes possible.